Welcome to the Midlife Career Rebel, the podcast created for high-achieving professional women to gain the clarity, confidence, and courage they need to go after and get the life and career they want. I'm your host, Dr. Carol Parker Walsh, lawyer, social scientist, brand strategist, executive coach, entrepreneur, and midlife career rebel. Each week, you'll learn strategies to manage your mind, navigate the challenges of midlife, and take control of your career so you can thrive doing the work you love. So if you're ready to tear up that rule book and create your own, you're in the right place, and I can't wait to show you how. Hey, Rebels. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Carol Parker Walsh, and we have a phenomenal guest today that I'm excited to have a conversation with. Her name is Lee Caraher. She is an acclaimed communication strategist and is the CEO of Double Forte, which is a national independent PR and communication agency. Lee has a reputation for building cohesive, high-producing teams who have fun together at the same time, and she's authored 2 top-selling books about positive and profitable work culture. And actually, one of those books we're going to get in today, which is called The Boomerang Principle, Inspiring Lifetime Loyalty from Employees, which I think is so fascinating, particularly in this climate. So without further ado, Lee, welcome so much to the podcast.
Carol, thank you so much for I should call you Dr. Carol. Dr. Carol, thank you so much for having me.
You can totally call me Carol. We're friends here. We're all friends here.
My sister's a doctor now, and she's like, it's Dr. Lizzie to you. I'm like, really? All right then. Great, Dr. Lizzie.
I love that. So, Lee, I would love just to, give a sense of background and understanding of your journey to where you are now before you created your agency and the work that you are doing now. What was your story and your career story from where you started to the work that you're doing now? And what motivated that journey for you?
Oh my gosh. Motivation was food. Okay. I like to eat. I graduated. I grew up on the East Coast. I went to school in Minnesota. I went to Carleton College, which is just a wonderful institution. And if you have a rising senior, please consider it because I love that place and it's awesome. I have a degree in medieval history, Carol, which is really helpful. And my minor was performance voice, which is probably more helpful. But I knew that I didn't want to do both departments were very, you should be a historian, you should be a singer. And what I knew about myself, even at 22, was I am terrible at doing one thing. This is before, MBTI was just coming out, all that stuff. But I knew that I got bored. I'm bored easily, right? So I didn't know what to do. And my friend Ramona, so this is how I got on my career. My friend Ramona, who we were on the same floor for 4 years in a row together. She was also a history major, but not medieval historian. She said, I think you should go into PR. And I said, what is PR? I had no idea. So I went to the Career Center and there was a book, What is PR? So I read it and I was like, yeah, I could do that. Literally, that's how I decided to start my career because I had to get a job. My parents, I'm the oldest. They'd made different decisions from my younger sisters, but I'm the oldest. They're like, you're not coming home. You can't. This was a different age, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I was like, well, I need a job. That looks good. I can do that. I sort of do that with all the other stuff I'm doing in my extracurriculars. So at that time, which was a long time ago, I decided to pursue agency work because agency work is more set for training than internal work. And that's still true. You get much more training in an agency than you do internally in this profession until a certain point. And then going in-house makes a lot of sense. And there's really 4 places in the country you could do it. So I didn't want to, Boston, which is where I'd sort of grown up, New York, which scared the crap out of me, San Francisco, 5 places, Los Angeles and Chicago. I wanted to get out of the Midwest. San Francisco is where my parents did not want to be close. They were sort of separated at the time. I was like, I'm not going into that chaos. LA, I didn't want to be a publicist for stars. And that really, at that time, was what happened. So by process of elimination, I'm left with Boston. So I called my father's best friend, who's a big time lawyer in Boston. I said, will you help me? Well, you need to write me a letter like why I should help you. and why you think you'd be good in this career. So I wrote a letter. He sent it back with blood all over it. Okay, red pen. But and I had to rewrite it. I rewrote it, and he said, "Yes, I'll help you." So then he set me up with 11 informational interviews in 1 week. I got 6 offers for internships. I took the one that gave me the most dollars, which was in high tech PR, which makes a lot of sense for a media historian, don't you think? So that is how I got into PR. And what I found was that I'm good at it. I like it. And I've been in communication, public relations communications, executive communications, crisis communications, whatever, the whole thing ever since, which is very unusual. I get it.
Mm.
And then let's see, started in Boston, moved to California, moved to LA, did technology PR in LA, got recruited to Sega of America, the video game company, for lots of reasons. Was there at the height of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was
Mm.
very exciting and really a bellwether in my career. When Sega decided to move forward with their last platform, the Dreamcast, I decided to leave because we all knew what was going to happen to the company. There's no way it was going to sustain itself with that model.
Mhm.
And then I was recruited back to my firm that I'd been at in Boston to start their San Francisco office. I did that. They asked me to start a company. I did that. And then on 9/11, lots of things happened before 9/11 to lead up to this. But on 9/11, it was abundantly clear to me that I did not want to do that job. I had been on a plane on 9/4 from New York to San Francisco. That could have been me. I had 2 young children, and I was working for people I really did not respect. And I was like, "I can't do it. I cannot do this anymore."
Wow.
Literally 20 years ago. And at that time, you couldn't work 2,000 miles away from your CEO if you were the chief communications officer. It's like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to figure it out. And that's when I started Double Forte, because I had to, not because I wanted to, but I'm the breadwinner. I knew how to do this. And then my friend Dan, who'd work and colleague, we'd worked together 1, 2, 3. This is our third time working together. We came together and said, okay, if we have to start an agency, let's make it one that we like to go to work to, because we hated going to work to the last one. Hated it with the
Mhm.
burning passion of the sun. And that was 20 years ago. And here we are. That is my journey in a nutshell.
Wow. That is quite a journey. But I'm curious though. I think what's one, let me just say, I think it's always fascinating that when I hear people talk about their career journeys, that a lot of life experiences, life events
Oh,
create these pivots,
I
in our
hope so, right?
career.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And I think some of us, it takes a life event to make the pivot, and some people, need a life event, to make a pivot when they probably should, earlier. But the other thing was, what made you feel confident with everything that you were going through, and after working for so long, that you could create your own business, that you could start your own company and run it smoothly?
Ah. Oh, run it smoothly? Wait. I didn't say this.
Successfully, I'll put it that way.
Successfully 20 years. Yeah, I mean, most companies
Yeah,
don't make it past 3 years, as you know,
yeah,
and, only less than 1% make it to 20 years. So it is
yeah.
successful, which I have to remind myself when it gets hard. You know, um, I'm pragmatic, right? My husband was a chef when I met him, and I was an executive in PR. And when before, he was never a person I thought we would, he was not my ideal husband had I been 27. But having been older, I was like, I had realized, all those people who were ideal aren't so ideal.
Yeah,
Uh, and so I actually married a chef. I never thought I would marry someone who didn't have a white collar job. It just was in my
yeah.
head, right? But I did. And he realized we weren't going to see each other, because he worked from like 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. and I worked from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and, never the two shall meet. And so, you make more money than I do, Lee. So why don't I stay home with the kids? I'm like, wait. What just happened?
You're like, that's not the game book, that's not the plan.
And my plan worked out. Are you hearing me, Carol? So, but here's a man I loved, and he's an awesome dad, and I made more money. So it was very pragmatic. I was like, okay, we don't have more money. I don't want to put all my money into this basket called uh termites. and live paycheck to paycheck. I had run a business, a $25 million business for Interpublic that I basically built myself, on their dime. And so, sort of like baby needs a new set of shoes. And it's been my experience, actually, around women in the workplace in general over 30 years of career. And I've been through now 1, 2, 3, 4 downturns, right? Is that women are much more pragmatic than their male counterparts. They, in a situation that is dire, like in a situation that's not ideal, they make pragmatic decisions for their families, if they have families, and most of them do in some way, shape, or form. And they don't worry so much about the title, or the money matters, but they don't worry about the title, and they don't worry about, all right, well, that's the new rate. They go do the research and like, yeah, that is the new rate. They just take the job. And then they evolve the job from whatever that position is when times get better. Whereas in my experience, the men who have come to me for help, they won't take a job unless it's a certain title. They won't take a job unless it's a certain amount of dollars. They won't take a job unless all these things, like I need to travel first class. I'm like, who the hell are you? Right? You don't have a job. You don't have to travel at all, And they have a harder time. Men in general, I found that men have a harder time in times of trouble than women do, because women are very focused on, baby needs a new pair of shoes. And that sounds so trite, but it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think as you think about the last few years with COVID, all the things that happened in COVID were happening. They were all happening. People were underpaid. They were not being served well. All these things were happening. And COVID just slammed us forward 10 years. Nothing new came out of COVID except an acceleration of the trends that were happening anyway. And I don't know if this male female differentiation trend though changed it all. I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, I think, to your point, it goes to one of the things I always talk about with, with my clients is that it's so important for you to understand your natural gifts and talents and abilities. And I think that what you're saying is, as a natural talent, gift, and ability, if you have agility, flexibility, openness, some pragmatism, and,
you can
that
listen.
can listen.
You have to be a really good listener.
Absolutely, that you can make things work. You can come into situations and hopefully either be able to reframe them in a way that fits you, or you make decisions that allow you to utilize those skills to be successful. Like you say, you have to, because you have to,
You have to,
and so
yeah. Well, and I think too, I mean, again, all these trends were happening before COVID, but think about all the things that happened inside COVID, right? We had George Floyd, we had Donald Trump, you have the war in Ukraine, we have all these things happening in it. And my hope, I believe this is true, the trajectory that we're on now, forget what everyone is like, dooming the economy for. We're not in a recession, people. Yes, there's inflation, but that's because we're spending. We're spending, which makes inflation. If we don't spend, inflation goes down. It's us.
Right.
Is that the things that is the economy, the workforce are finally learning that people matter, and that people can make many more of their own decisions as long as they back them up. And particularly for people of color, it is incredibly painful. It's incredibly painful, but there have been incredible strides forward in the last 2.5 years for all people of color, even when sometimes it feels like we're taking 3 steps back. And from my perspective, it's a mindset, listening. What do I have to do? What do I want? What's my impact going to be? How do I want to live? What do I have to look like? Who do I have to look in the mirror every night? That's what guided me when I started my company. I said this earlier, like, how do we make a company we like to go to, right? Don't work for assholes was rule number 1. Don't work for people you don't trust, basically. Don't work for people who don't respect you. women work to stay relevant more than men do because we are more pragmatic in general. And I don't even know if this is supposed to be that conversation, but that's my experience.
Yeah.
And in PR, it's all about being relevant. And our company has changed 4 or 5 times in models, has evolved dramatically in the tactics we use, but it really hasn't evolved at all in the services that we do, which is speak on behalf of our clients to get people to care about them. The end.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I love what you said earlier about that what we've seen through the pandemic, definitely a more push toward a more human-centric approach, that people are starting to care about what they do. Things matter to them. And so, you're looking at this ability for for women as well, with their agility and flexibility in the workplace. I think because of that is why we've seen this, like what they're calling a she session, with so many women who have exited the workplace because they've had enough of kind of this patriarchal model of working, and not being able to have opportunities to flex in a way that makes sense for them, and on and on and on. And taking it to your book about building loyalty in organizations, inspiring employers, aspiring loyalty. I was thinking about this relationship between all of this kind of mass exodus of women, this dearth of women leadership, for the ability to create spaces that make sense for them. What in through your research, you're finding through in your book, like what have you found that is important for, or how can employers build that loyalty to keep women, and to inspire women and women of color to stay, and to really want to be committed to the organization?
We're gonna need another podcast, Carol, but okay. So to me, it's very simple. First of all, let's define loyalty. Loyalty is when you do something for somebody else that you don't have to do. Loyalty is not staying in a job you hate. Loyalty is not staying in a job and not going somewhere else. I mean, the most loyal act an employee can do is leave when they're not inspired by the job they have. And even if they like the company, that they don't like their role, that they haven't figured, or either they don't have the energy to find a new role in the system, or the system does not have a role for them. And that can be totally true depending on the size of the entity, right? I've had people come to me in 20 years and go, Lee, I want to be a nurse. Well, we are not a hospital, so I don't know. How can I support you? I can support. Do you have to go to school to get your prereqs? Yes. Okay, well, you can work for us and go to nurse, get your prereqs done at night, or we'll figure it out. I can support them in their personal goals. And for we have several people who have changed their careers 2 and 3 times since they left Double Forte, but they still show up for Double Forte all the time. They're referring business, they're referring people, they have ideas, they come back, all that kind of stuff, right? So loyalty is something you don't have to do when you're getting paid. When you're getting paid, it's a transaction. You show up, you get paid. That's the deal. It's not loyal to show up to work. It's prudent to show up to work, like all these people who are ghosting their jobs before they even show up. Crazy talk. Don't understand. Yeah. It will hurt them in the end. So that's loyalty. So the thing about loyalty is sometimes grass looks greener, right? And the number one. Number two about loyalty is every person is unique. Every person has their own journey. Every person has their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own challenges, their own desires, right? And sometimes those desires are way outmatched to their ability. I want to do this. Well, first you need to do all these things because that is what's required. You can't be a heart surgeon unless you go through medical school and you go through the internship and the residency and you save from people. Then you can get your credential, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So there are definitely qualifications but if I know, Carol, what you want to do in life, what's your goal? Tell me where you are in your life, Carol. Well, I have 2 young kids. My husband's on the road all the time. And I need to work. I have to work. That's what the deal is. What matters most to me is that I have a good job and that I'm contributing, but that I also have flexibility. So you might say, I'm going to park myself for a little bit while I do all these things and get to the other side of kindergarten, right? Because kindergarten changes everything. So as long as you tell me what it is you want to do, or you could have someone right out of college. I don't know what I want to do. What I know what I want to do is I'm going to use these skills. Everyone says you have got a great culture here. I love these clients. I want to work on them. And I'd like to see where it goes. That's enough. All right, here's what you have to do. If you share, well, one, you have to be willing to share and have a reputation for caring. Because if you're just exploiting, people can smell that a mile away, right? But have invested interest in who works for you. Big company, small company, doesn't really matter. Like, who is your manager? Do they have invested interest in you? What would you like to, and then share what you'd like to do. And then have this here's what I'd like to get. Sometimes you don't know, sometimes you do. And then have them work with the manager to say, here's how you can get there. If you do all these things, then I can promote you over to that group and help you work with that group to get that job. It takes an involved manager. It takes a manager who has a strong ego in the fact that they don't care, that they understand, a strong ego in the fact that they understand that the more people they help, the more power they have. Not to diminish somebody, right? It also takes a strong person, right? These things, good careers are not served to you in a platter, period. Good careers are served to you by your own desire, your own imagination, and your own will. And when those things don't match up to where you are, that you get the hell out and find something new.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I love this idea that it's important for you as an employee to know what your values are and to understand what the values are of the organization that you're a part of, to make sure there's alignment so that you're not, as you put it, working for assholes.
Unless you're okay with it, right?
Yeah, unless you're okay with it. But it sounds like, if I had to, summarize some of the things that you said, first of all, having this understanding and sense of loyalty, which is doing something you don't have to do. So you need to first have that mentality and to be okay with that, as opposed to just, well, I'm paying you, therefore that's transactional. That's not what loyalty is.
That's not what loyalty is.
The second thing is being, knowing the goals, for the employee to know their own goals, but having that conversation as a leader or an employer to understand the goals and aspirations of the people that are working for them, and to also have a vested interest in that, a vested interest in your employee being successful, whether that means long-term they're going to stay with you or not, but
doesn't matter.
If you're invested in them while they're there, it sounds like they'll be more loyal to you and give you so much more if you're open to having that connection and line where you actually care about them.
And some of the most valuable, counted by dollars, employees I've ever had don't work for me. They haven't worked for me for 12 years,
Yeah.
And they're valuable because they refer clients. They're valuable because they give us testimonials. They're valuable that someone gets inspired by. They're valuable because they send us candidates. So now I don't have to pay 45% to find a candidate. So the other thing about it's not, here's what we know. And I have all the statistics in this book. So, you can go look at all the research on this. What we know about human people, as opposed to inhuman people, and there are some, is that people who feel appreciated outperform those who don't up to 30%. So let me say that again. People and teams, right, who feel appreciated outperform those who don't by up to 30%. What does that mean? That means people, your teams that understand that they mean something to the organization, that they are contributing to the organization, and that contribution is appreciated, are more profitable for the organization than people who are just wondering what the hell's going on. There is so much data on this, Carol. There's coming out of Harvard, Wharton, Duke. I mean, there's so much data, London School of Economics, so much data on this. So I got a coach, and I worked with a coach for 6 months after I came back. And the first thing she did was a very professional, in-depth 360. And the thing that came back, so it was very complimentary, which was, except for this one thing, none of my people thought that I appreciated them. I'm I'm like, what are they talking about?
Wow.
I am the nicest person they know, damn it.
Uh-huh.
And
In my opinion.
in my very informed, unbiased opinion. And what it really came down to is I never said please and thank you. And I grew up in a household that didn't say please and thank you. My father was a cardiac surgeon, and his point of view was please and thank you were implied, because if you ask please and thank you in the operating room, please give me the scalpel. Thank you for giving me the scalpel. Someone might die. That was his point of view. That was
Mhm.
in our household, and I went into work with that. No one ever thought, I mean, I never occurred to me to say please and thank you, because I didn't grow up that way. And this is the my big glaring, blind spot, right? That we all identify in these 360s. So I
Mhm.
learned how to say thank you and please. And our non-billable time, so we track all time, dropped by 5% once when I started saying please and thank you. And I thought everyone was going to think I was a tool. Truly. That's what I wrote in my book. I thought everyone's going to think I was a tool. But I had to learn how to do it. And then I made them do it and learn it, practice it 12 times, authentic appreciation, not for the fact that you like your shoes, but I appreciate that you always give me a smile. I appreciate that you said thank you when I was just having a bad day. I appreciated that you went and got my lunch because you knew that I was so busy that day. Things that
Mhm.
actually made a difference to you. I force it on everybody. Everyone, like, oh, good, here's Lee again with the appreciation. But I'll tell you, after every time we did it, and we did 12 weeks in a row, because you really have to create a habit, the energy in the room was like sky high, right? So, and I saw the profit and loss option right there,
Mhm.
5% less wasted time. We sell time. That's what we do. We sell
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That was amazing to me. So if you just say please and thank you, if you take a moment to say, what is that person's role? Explain that person's role, explain how that person has an impact on the next person, how we cannot
Mhm.
do what we do without you showing up, even if it's virtually.
Yeah.
And then say, not thank you for showing up, but hey, man, look at what the team did together. We are moving our ball down the field. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
that's
really
really
all it
powerful.
takes.
Yeah,
That's all it takes.
simple and powerful. Yeah, yeah.
But we're not taught that. Well, maybe they're taught that now, but I was not taught that early.
Right.
In my career, so I had my own company. It was not until I'd been in my career for, let's see, 86. Yeah, for 20 years until I learned that.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So no one ever told me that before.
Yeah. So how can, women bring more of that into the workplace to, I know if the culture is such where that's not going to be acceptable, that's going to be a challenging thing to do. But for those who are really trying
Yeah.
to, in this day and age, to really redefine who they are,
Yep.
and they want to build that loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
what can they do, and what can women do to help maybe
Mm-hmm.
foster this sense of building more loyalty so that it becomes a place where they want
Mm-hmm.
to keep them and they want to stay
And they want to come back, right?
and want to
That's
come back, yeah,
my book
and
is
refer
about.
people to come, yeah.
My book is about coming back to a company you left. Like, be open to it. Sometimes your best employees are the ones that came back to you. They come back
Mm-hmm.
better than when they left you. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so loyalty starts with being understanding that you got something out of the experience that you have with the company. So if your point of view is like, so my son's 24, I don't think he likes what he's doing, but he knows he's doing it in a good place. He doesn't know what he wants to do, right? I said, here's the deal. Just get everything you can out of it. What are you going to learn? Write down what you're going to learn. And as soon as you stop learning, write down something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So define what you want to get out of this job. And you have to put it in the context of your life, right? So if you're 24, you're single, you can go anywhere in the world, what do you want to get out of this? And his whole thing was, I want to get 2 years experience, so I'm eligible for the entry-level jobs I didn't have enough experience for when I graduated. I'm like, okay, 2 years of work. All right, stay there for 2 years. That will get you where you want to go, if that's what you
Mm-hmm.
decide. So define what you want to get out of the job. Define what and then what are the conditions under which you are unwilling to work? I am
Mm-hmm.
unwilling to work. So Meta, Facebook, just said, announced, well, they had an internal memo that said, if you're not going to be in the, if people aren't willing to work even more intensely than they have, they're not welcome at Meta, Facebook anymore. Which, as someone from the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm just like, I don't know how those people could work any harder, but okay. I don't want to work that way. There are people who will, right? So, all right, don't go there. There are lots of companies that will not require that, who know that is a short-term gain for a long-term loss.
Yeah.
It's been proven over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So what are you going to get out of that job? Who are you going to be working with? What's the contribution you can make through that role? That goes down to the guy who picks up the garbage every day. People don't pick up our garbage, we can't get our job done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it nice, And then and then you can start the thanks and please. Be who you want to be as a manager if you're not one yet. Model how you want to be modeled too, right? Acted with. And 95% of the people will match you. Don't worry about the 5% who aren't, unless you're if you're in danger, get the hell out. And there are definitely dangerous situations. You should not, if you feel like you're in danger, you're at risk, goodbye.
Yeah.
95% of situations are not going to be that. So, and then you can work for the other pieces, right? This is where DE&I work has done so much in the last, particularly, well, forever, but really in the last 3 years, right? Where really pushing organizations forward and understanding what inclusion and invitation means, acceptance means, and those things, and being willing to listen, being unwilling to lose people. So I'm unwilling to lose people just because we didn't try. I'm unwilling. If my people don't do their work, I can't keep them. We still have time. But we can offer a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunity, a lot of things. But I'm unwilling to lose people that I spent a lot of time looking for and a lot of time training without trying.
Yeah.
And it takes listening, just, So what can women do? Depends who you are, but every woman can decide what it is they want to do, what it is that is important in this next period of time. So what's important in the next 2 years? Like, look around, like, a lot of women probably who listen to the show, Carol, are like us. They have parents who are elderly, have children who are growing. They're caring for somebody, even if they don't have their own children. Total sandwich, right? We have lots of responsibilities. We're trying to be involved with politics. We're trying to be involved with our communities. We're trying to bring home $1. We're trying, all those things. So what is most important right now? I believe that you can't make a bad decision if you understand what's most important for you, and then you make the decision understanding what trade-offs you make. Because if we have to work, and most of us, we keep hearing about all this money that's being transferred. That's still the 0.001% of the 1%, right?
Yeah.
Most of us are gonna have to work much longer than we thought. For me, it's an extra 10. I didn't know I was gonna have a child with special needs. I didn't know I was gonna live through 4 downturns and be at the wrong time, be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong things when we hit the downturn, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't plan that stuff, but what I can plan is that I'm going to be in a position to have options. I'm going to be in a position to say, this is what I'm worth. I'm staying relevant. You have to stay relevant. You don't have a choice. People don't like it. Mostly men don't like it. But if you're working, you have to be relevant.
Yeah.
What does that mean, right? You have to find out what that means in your career path, because every career has a different relevance factor, right? For me, it means I have to know what the hell TikTok is and how to use it, and how does it impact what happens in public but other things, it's different. You have to be relevant, and you have to, what I would say is you're in control of how you act. Control what you can control, and you're way ahead of the pack. And then you can set a path for yourself that says, okay, I have 3 women right now on my team who have kids who are not yet in kindergarten. And we have set tracks for them that says, once kindergarten happens, what do you want to do? you want to keep doing this? Because it has a different schedule and it has different opportunities and they're not available when they need to be for some clients. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That means this. Do you want? And they're like, I don't know yet. I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out then. It's not worth it to borrow trouble.
Yeah.
Because you can't predict anything. If the
Yeah.
last 3 years have been taught us we can't predict anything, I don't know what has, right?
Yeah.
But
But
mostly is understanding who are we?
yeah.
Who do we want to be? What's our impact going to be? And what do we have to get done? And if you think about the 11.5 million people who lost their jobs, got laid off in 2020, right? And you think about who's gone back to work, there's still 2 million women who have not yet gone back to work in this country who could have.
Yeah. So I do love the tips for women really to, in order to engage in these workplaces, in order for employers to have them come back, there are things that they have to do. But for the women themselves, it's important for them to stay relevant, to really know what they want from their job, to know their non-negotiables, and to know their contribution, and to really be who they want to be, so that they can model the things that they want if they're coming back into workforces and workplaces that make sense to them and that are aligned with who they are and are aligned with what it is that they want for their life, for their family, and to move on, which is really great.
It sounds very
Lee,
naive, doesn't it?
yeah, it sounds naive, but it's really powerful. It's really powerful, though. So I would love to ask you, what does being a career rebel mean to you?
It means defining your own success.
Mm.
What is success to you? How can you look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I did it, right?
Yeah.
And all of us have a different answer. All of us have a different motivation. Our motivation may change over time. Our definition of success may change over time. But what is the definition of success to you? To me, it was not having to work for people I knew were lying to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that impacted my own reputation. In
Yeah.
the end, all we have is our reputation, right? And it's our reputations that carry us through our careers. So for me, being a rebel is being individual and figuring out what is success for me, and then figuring out how to plug what my definition is into the world around me, because I'm not a bubble. I don't have billions of dollars just to do whatever the hell I want. I have to work. So I obviously have to be relevant to somebody, but I can make those rules if I have the output that those rules demand, right? If I wasn't good in my job, if I didn't go over the top sometimes to provide great service, my clients could go anywhere else, a lot of other places.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't, right? So I earned the right to have my own definition by my work ethic and my output and how I treat people. But I don't give up on that definition of what is my success.
I love that. Yeah.
We're such individual, I've done a lot of work on myself. I told you I did this coaching stuff,
Mm-hmm.
MBTI, Enneagram, the love languages of appreciation, the strengths finders. I do all this stuff and I give it to all my people too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that
Mm-hmm.
they can know themselves better. If they can know themselves better, they can advocate for themselves better and be better employees because they're happier. And
Yeah.
Earlier, a happier employee, it sounds very like, maybe it sounds mean-spirited or Machiavellian. I want a happy employee because they're more
Yeah.
but I want a happy employee because they're more profitable.
Yeah.
Just,
Right. Right.
and wouldn't that be a great world, right? If everybody's happy doing the stuff. And
well, I think too, not only it doesn't make for more profitability for the employer, but I think it makes for peace of mind, happiness, contribution, and greater income for the employee. I think it's a win-win, because the more profitable the employer is, the more money that they can pay, that you can negotiate for the people that are working there. So it really works hand in hand. That's the way it should be, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I love, this idea of knowing what success means to you, but knowing it in a place where people where that's valued, where that's
Right.
respected, and where that you can have that reciprocal relationship. I think that
Yeah.
is so key and so powerful, because yeah, we don't work in bubbles. It has to show up
Don't worry your bubbles,
someplace.
right?
But if you know yourself and you're taking control and you're
Yeah.
giving back and contributing in a way, it works for a really great give and take
And a lot
relationship.
of us later, middle life are like, oh, what should I do now? Kind of stuff. And I'm 58. I'm still wondering what I should do now. So,
Mm-hmm.
and some of us have just worked until we got more comfortable in our own skin. I know that was my truth, right? I was like, just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what to do. And then I got comfortable in my own skin and I understood more about myself. And it took me a while. But when I was reframing it, basically we have to take our experiences and reframe them for the future, right? Don't let your past
Mm.
define your future, reframe your past to create your future.
Yeah.
And like, what did I take away from this experience? Man, that sucked. I didn't realize, sort of
Mm.
like the frog that's in the water, the frog jumps into the boiling water and jumps out. The frog is
Yeah.
in the cold water and gets warmed up, and all of a sudden they're dead because it boiled. A lot of us, I would guess the first thing is understand if your water's boiling or not.
Mm.
Understand what you're in, and then understand what you want, and then how do you get from where you're in to where you want? And it's a journey, right? You
Yeah.
just can't flip the switch. Most of us don't have the
Absolutely.
benefit of flipping the switch, but it is in your control to control yourself. All
Well,
right, you have to stop talking. I know.
I appreciate, listen, I know this could be another podcast, but I appreciate everything that you shared and, just the insights. I love what you said, reframe your past to reframe your future,
Create your future.
to create your future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reframe your past to create your future, which I think is so powerful. And I think it's such a great place to leave this conversation. And yeah, we could have gone on for more and more, but thank you so much for being here. I'll definitely make sure to drop the links to your book so people can get access to it, to get all that wealth of information and to get onto your website to learn more. But thank you so much for being here today.
Carol, thank you so much for having me. I've so enjoyed talking with you and having long answers to your very short questions.
Thank you. Well, listen, that's it for our podcast episode for today, Rebels. Stay tuned next week when we'll have some more exciting conversations. And in the interim, have an amazingly rebellious week. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you're loving what you're learning on the podcast, then you've got to come check out the Career Rebel Academy. It's where you'll get the individual help and support you need, applying the concepts and strategies you're learning here and so much more. You'll be joined by a community of other rebels just like you, and I'll be there as your guide every step of the way. If you're genuinely looking to change the course of your life and career, I promise you, this is the place you'll want to be. Just go to www.carolparkerwalsh.com/career-rebel-academy. I can't wait to see you there.